In this quick tip, we're going to answer a very common question when it comes to piece numbering in PractiCAD. Piece numbering in PractiCAD works as follows. There are only two options: identical fittings, identical fitting numbers, option on, or that option's off. When we're in the library icon on the PractiCAD ribbon, and under here under ductwork options, we've got under piece numbering, keep same piece number for identical entities. When this is checked, it means that for every single edit to the drawing, every edit, every modification, every new piece, every change, that before we go to number that duct, we need to check the whole drawing to see if we have another piece that is identical to ourselves. If you've already got a number on that duct and you make a change to that duct, PractiCAD is going to renumber that fitting if in fact somewhere else on the drawing that fitting's properties match one of a different number. So the mechanism is either on or off. Right now, to demonstrate, we're going to keep this on. We're going to exit out of my library. We've got two duct lines that are identical with the exception of one thing. They're in different zones. And we're going to demonstrate this by clicking on the first two pieces. We're going to look through the geometry parameters. You can see that they all match. You don't see the word varies anywhere. If we see the word varies on any parameter, they're not identical. As you're going to see when we come all the way down here to identification, only under zone do we have the word varies. And we happen to have the word varies here under designation because part of this designation is zone. And there are separate tutorials on designation. But because of this word varies, these two duct lines are different, which means that we're going to number the first one. And we're going to use an automatic here that says duct line forward, supply. And there are tutorials in those automatics to come. But basically, we're just going to run a duct line forward automatic. And we've got the current number at 1. So you can see that PractiCAD's going to number this duct line 1, 1. Because these fittings are identical. 2. Then it goes 3, 3. Then 4. Then 5, 5. Because all of these fittings happen to be identical. The ones that are identical numbers. Now, the question that's very common is, can we number a different duct line with identical parameters in the exact same manner? And the answer is no. We cannot number this duct line 1, 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 5, 5 as we see up here. The reason why is when the identical fitting mechanism is on, so that identical fittings get identical fitting numbers. Even if I come back right now and I reset my current number to 1, and the automatic we're using here works off current number. So when I go to say duct line forward and run this automatic, it is going to start from number 1. But what it's going to do before it puts number 1 on the drawing is it's going to see if number 1 is being utilized by any other fitting. And it's going to come to realize when I run the automatic that number 1 is already taken up. So the only way that this duct I'm highlighting now in yellow could possibly get this number would be if they were identical, and they're not. So what's going to happen is when I go to run this automatic, which does work off current number, even though the current number is 1, because we have identical fittings, identical fitting numbers checked, it's going to search the drawing starting from number 1. And it's going to go, do we have number 1 available? And it's going to say, if the answer is yes, then we're going to use it. If the answer is no, it's going to say, do I match the properties of number 1? If I do, then I can be number 1. If I don't, I have to go to the next number. And what's going to happen here is when I go to run this automatic, this first fitting, because the zone is different, it's not going to be able to match any of the numbers on the drawing. So it's going to go through 1 through 5, and then the first available number is going to be 6. And that's where this is going to start. So if we come here and just run this automatic duct line forward, and we just run it right down the line, you're going to see that it starts it from number 6. It cannot start from number 1. Now the only way that you could make this be from number 1 would be to shut off the identical fittings, identical fitting numbers mechanism. But what we're going to do here is we're going to hit Control Z and we're going to undo that last automatic. And now what we're going to do is we're going to go into ductwork libraries and we're going to shut that identical mechanism off. So right here under piece numbering, under ductwork options, we're going to shut it off. We're going to hit save. And now what we're going to do is exit out. Now once again, we're going to come up here and note the current number in the workbox is number 1. And the automatic we're going to keep using here for this tutorial does work off current number. Now we've shut off identical fittings, identical fitting numbers, which means that whatever the current number is will always be the number that this duct line starts from. So this first fitting is going to be number 1. The problem is going to be the second fitting. Let's run this duct line forward automatic by clicking on this icon, and let's run duct line forward. You can see that it does start from number 1 because we don't have identical fittings, identical fitting numbers checked. So therefore, it's always going to start from the current number. However, the problem is going to occur right here. You cannot have this fitting get an identical fitting as the same number as this one on the line because the mechanism is shut off. The mechanism can only be turned on or off. Since it's off, we get a different number for each fitting. Yes, we can reuse and start from number 1, but we cannot get this duct line here to look like that duct line. We must use different numbers. Now, the only way that you could get these to look the same at this point is you'd have to override it. And what we're going to show you is that when you've got identical fittings, identical fitting number option unchecked, and it's not active, you can literally punch in any number for any fitting at any time, anywhere you want on the drawing. In other words, we could just simply double click on this fitting right here. We can come right over to where it says piece number. We can change the piece number to number 1 and hit enter, and it'll change it. I could come over to these pieces right here, highlight them both, go into the piece numbering option, and even though piece number 3 is already being used right here, I could come and say these are going to be piece number 3 and hit enter, and it'll change them. When that mechanism's off, we can literally change this to do whatever we want. However, if we're going to run automatics up and down duct lines, that option must be on or off. Also take note, once again, if you're editing and that option's on, every change, PractiCAD's going to search the whole drawing to see if what we're changing this duct to, if those properties match another duct on the drawing. Once again, we're going to go into library. We're going to come over to the piece numbering options and ductwork options. We're going to check, keep same piece number for identical entities. We're going to hit save. We're going to exit out. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come to this fitting, and we're just going to make some sort of change. In this particular case, we're going to add an accessory. We're going to come over here and grab a damper. We're going to put that damper right there. We're going to say, let's put the VD blade damper, and we're going to move it so it's exactly 16 inches on the inset. We're going to press OK. When we do that, the number changes because currently we're in the mode identical fittings, identical fitting numbers. And since that option's checked, upon every edit, every change of every parameter, it's going to recheck the drawing to find an identical match. If we do the exact same edit, same thing, we're just going to undo what we've done. But we do that edit with the option unchecked, it will have no effect on the duct line whatsoever. So we're going to go into ductwork options. We're going to uncheck it. We're going to hit save. And now we're out of the mode where identical fittings need identical numbers. Now we can come in and grab that same damper. We can click on a fitting. We can put that damper into the fitting, move it where we'd like. But when we do that, it has no bearing on the piece numbering because PractiCAD at this moment does not care if the fittings that are identical have identical numbers. So that mode must be on or off. That's going to conclude this quick tip on editing and utilizing the identical fitting number option.